Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Lucifer, as well as the latest episode of The Gifted. Like always, if I'm talking about something you don't want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include the time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of Lucifer, you can skip to what I say about this week's episode of The Gifted. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Lucifer. A fantastic episode filled with many surprises all across the board, which I'll kind of break things down bit by bit. First of all, something I thought was kind of interesting brought up in this episode that I was kind of an idiot about. I did not know that Maze knew the entire situation. I thought she was going into this not knowing anything about the Cinnamon, especially because Lucifer didn't really explain it at all last episode to her. And she's kind of been out of the loop the entire time. But I guess she kind of was in the loop. Because that was something my entire time. It's like, oh, Maze doesn't know. Maze doesn't know. It's like, oh, wow, she actually knows because she's like, oh, the fact is he snaps your wings back on you. He's like, oh. So that was one thing I thought was kind of interesting. I wonder, has she known the entire time? Was she one of the first people he told or something like that? Or is he just kind of maybe because I also was thinking about that too. It's like maybe he was going to have maybe he had a whole off-screen conversation with her. Is most likely what that's kind of all about. But to me, I thought I saw something in the previews that made it seem like it was him showing his wings off to her for the first time. But that could have been something else I was seeing and I misinterpreted it as that. But nevertheless, that's that. But things I didn't expect to go down the way they did. The whole Cinnamon breakout thing. I 100% thought Lucifer was going to handle that on his own. Did not expect it to be no, the fact is that in actuality, everyone was in on it. Particularly it was Chloe's plan. And I love the fact is that they use Ella as a means of keeping Pierce busy. I thought that was so neat. And she spent the entire time trying to confide, help him a little bit because, Chloe accidentally spilled the beans about Pierce's brother, which is kind of interesting for her to say it was public knowledge. But I guess for her, if she thought if everyone knew about it, it didn't really make that conversation between them as intimate as it is or something. That's what I was thinking, but I don't know. I'm curious about why she thought that it was kind of a public knowledge. But I guess she's I guess because in her eyes, it's I don't want it to seem because, it shows that there's a bond there for him to tell her something like that. But which obviously certain things later on kind of bring that into question. But I'll definitely get into that later on. Oh, God, I just thought about that. I'll talk about it later on. I got to break everything in the episode down. But the fact is that Pierce was oh, you think I'm stupid? I knew you guys were breaking them out. Even the whole Chloe putting a bomb on a quote unquote bomb on Dan's desk and then being she even apologized later on. So it's yeah, that was me. And he's okay, first it's a severed head, now it's a bomb. It's does anyone not just want to leave me some muffins or something on my desk? Also, I love Ella's reaction later on when it's wait, you have all these files on Lucifer? It's yes, I just needed to check out my wife's new partner. It's oh yeah, stalker. But it's obviously you're good, but still, you admit it is a little stalkerish, but at the same time, it's it came from a good place. But so many twists I didn't expect was for one, like I said, I thought it was going to be Lucifer on his own handling, but it was Chloe's by his side and obviously Pierce. And it turns out the girl who was kidnapped, Maggie, wasn't actually kidnapped. The whole thing was set up by the Cinnamon. Immediately, I was all right, something's a little weird about this whole situation. I'm we're going to find out that Lucifer set this all in motion, didn't he? At first, I was please don't tell me Lucifer was behind this. Cause I was please don't tell me he set this whole thing up just to get to the Cinnamon, which is what my mind immediately went to when it's Lucifer and the Cinnamon is going, oh, his partner guy. I was no, Lucifer got him. And just this whole thing, I was okay, it's a little sigh of relief, but it turned out that the whole kidnapping was fake. It's just that the Cinnamon was the one behind it. I didn't know whether she was someone that Lucifer hired or whether he really set that in motion, which is that's not Lucifer's tactics, but it's just I thought he was so fixated on a Cinnamon. But the way his demeanor the entire episode doesn't seem like it was like that because he's very calm, cool, and collected. He wanted answers and everything, sure, but he never went off flying off the board he's never really, he gets emotional sometimes, but he never extremely flies off the board, uncontrollable, but kind of handling things the way he did. I thought was kind of interesting too. The fact is that even the Cinnamon, even Maze being as good as she is, being literally what Lucifer says, the best torturer in hell, even she couldn't break him. And it's I think that kind of speaks volumes to the fact is that happened like that. So, But then like Lucifer brought up something like, oh yeah, I can kill him, but it's like, you're an angel again right now, which begs the question. I guess he is an angel now, but I didn't know what, I mean, I guess because he does no longer have his devil face, it does make him an angel, which I never really thought of it like that. I thought it was just like, well, Lucifer's Lucifer and he's got his wings. I mean, technically, did he ever stop being an angel? He's never actually killed a human before. Like he scared him, but he's never killed a human before. So it's probably not even just like oh, you've got your wings back. It's like, no, he's always been an angel, always will be. So even he can't kill a human, even like before the whole getting his wings back thing. Because it's just, in my mind, it's just like, I don't associate him as being an angel when in actuality he isn't. Like, he never loses his angelness. Only, like, just because he lost his wings didn't change the fact is that he's still an angel, you know? It's kind of an interesting thing, like, just in my mind. I mean, because it's almost like, well, Menadil, like, he doesn't have any powers, but he's still, even though he's technically an angel, but without his powers, he is closer to that of a human. So it's one of those things. It's like, is Menadil still an angel, or is he a human because he doesn't have his powers? You know, in terms of that situation, like, in my thought process, I thought that was kind of interesting. But also the fact is, you can't kill a human, which makes it like, okay, you want to do it, fine, but like, don't come to me when basically the apocalypse happened. Which I go, huh? Because basically, that's numero uno. Rule number one for angels: you can't kill humans. Not that I was thinking, like, when she said that, I thought she was like, oh, you literally physically can't, you try to, it doesn't work. It's like, no, what that means is that you can do it, but the moment you do it, all hell breaks loose. And so that starts turning into that question, because the sinner man's like, I want you to kill me, which even like Lucifer's like, wait, what are you talking about? What does that mean? And he's just like, the whole thing was set up so that Lucifer would kill him. It's like he wanted freedom, but in a different way, it seems. He wanted Lucifer to kill him, which then immediately my brain goes, and even Lucifer's trying to figure out, like, why. Either it's because of someone else's plan, it's because whatever situation he said, like whatever he's trying to accomplish, he needs Lucifer to cross that line. Or maybe it was all for the purpose of creating that situation. You know, even Maison's like, you know, locusts and stuff like that, the beginning of the end type of like vibe is kind of what I was getting, like, from what she was saying, like, about, like, basically there'll be like there'll be world consequences for, like, you know, breaking probably like one of God's number one rules. So I don't know if the whole point was to kind of set that on, because to me, it also, another part of it seemed like it might be for the purpose of destroying his relationship with Chloe, which it kind of happens in this episode, which Chloe and him have each other's back. But the fact is, he went behind her back in this situation, and he tries to warn her, and he's like, everything, and it's something he kind of, that clicked with Maze too, that basically everything Lucifer's doing is because he's scared. He's scared that this isn't just about him. He makes it seem like, oh, it's all about him, but it's like, no, it's about everyone around him. It's about his life here. It's about Chloe, because if he doesn't stop the Sinner Man and just stop all this, it's like, who knows what could happen to Chloe. And obviously she doesn't understand that, and she doesn't know all that. So to her, it just looks like her partner stabbed her in the back. It's like, how are you saying you're doing this for us? I had your back, but you didn't have mine. You went behind my back and did something like this. To the point, she's not even trying to listen to the fact is that the Sinner Man had this whole plan. But it's just sad that this whole circumstance has led to their relationship falling apart like it has. So, but that's what also part of me was like, is that ultimately the plan? I was actually surprised when it turned out that Pierce was the one to put him down. I was like, oh man. Because it did seem like Lucifer, he wanted to do it, but at the same time, it's like you saw, even the Cinnamon was like, oh, you're hesitating. And it's like, because Lucifer doesn't want to do it. Because once again, Lucifer has never actually killed anyone. Well, he has. The only person he's ever killed was his brother Uriel, and that was out of like self-defense. That was to protect the people he cared about, that being his mom and Chloe. But even then, I mean, who knows how that drastically differences. I'm surprised there hadn't been consequences for killing his brother. I mean, you literally killed an angel. I would have thought there would be heavy consequences. I mean, obviously, like, there was that point where Lucifer was super depressed, like, it all weighed on his mind and his shoulders. But, like, there were no, like, world-ending consequences. At least not that we know of. But it seems like, obviously, I guess the rules apply a little differently than angels, which begs the question, why would that be a thing, though? Like, wouldn't you be scared about your children turning against you? Maybe that's just God being like, I don't think my children would turn. Maybe he never foresaw circumstances like that coming. You know, free will and everything doesn't just apply. You know, maybe he wanted his children to go out there and gain free will of his own. Still, once again, where the hell are the rest of his siblings? I'm so curious. I want to know so badly, like, what they're up to. I think it's just because there's so many and they just don't want to overwhelm you. But literally, the back of my mind, I'm still wondering, where the hell is Azrael? since like, since her blade popped up last season, it's like, where is she at? I don't know. That's just kind of floating in the back of my mind. But obviously the very end of the episode sets everything up that like it was Pierce behind all of this. That actually he has a connection to the person that claimed to be the Sinner Man, and it turns out, lo and behold, he's freaking Cain. I was like, what? The moment like Lucifer started bringing up a mark and everything, and it's like, because of my knowledge of supernatural, I'm like, Mark, the mark of Cain, and it's like, dude. It also seems like he isn't 100%. He's immortal, but in a different way. It seems like he has to die first before he can come back. It seems he probably can like sustain normal wounds, because remember, he did get shot. And maybe that's another reason why he survived that, because he probably did die, but then like woke up immediately. I don't think so. Like, I think he was just wounded. He's probably has like a normal human's body, but it's like if he dies, he can just come back. Like another comparison would be like, if you're familiar with the show Misfits, kind of like Nathan. Nathan dies, but he'll eventually come back. That's how it's always interesting when immortality works like that specifically, but nevertheless, that's so interesting, which then it's what I was bringing up earlier, the whole like Pierce bringing up, his brother was killed by the Sinner Man. So I guess, I guess he told us he told us from the very beginning, like, yeah, because, Cain and Abel whole situation, which did put this whole thing in perspective to me. Is this all about revenge? Could that be like, is this like him turning it like, like Charlotte last season trying to get revenge? Well, the goddess inside of Charlotte was trying to get, all this was about getting revenge on God. It's like, is this the same thing for him? Is that what this whole orchestrated plan was? I mean, to be fair, like, he's not a good guy either, because he's made a lot of deals too, because Maggie's whole kidnapping situation was like, he had her do that to fake, the whole situation with, because she wanted that spot on that, roller derby team, and basically she went to the Sinner Man. He ended up killing the girl that she was trying to replace. Her name's Faith, and to pay her back, she had to help with this whole faking her own kidnapping situation. But that's crazy. Like I said, I do appreciate, because we're expanding. I was wondering, I was like, I don't know, I was like, oh, is Tom Welling really just playing a detective at the beginning? I was like, no, there's gotta be more to it. For the beginning, I was like, he's gotta be somebody secretly, but I was like, oh, I guess he's just a cop. And it's like, no, he's more than this. Not only is he a cop, he's also been the Sinner Man the entire time. So it's like everything that's happened, it's not like he's been a good guy in this situation. Going back to that Maggie situation, he's killed people, sending a message to Lucifer by killing people too. So it's like, it puts that things in perspective, and it's like, what is this all about? Where has he been? This like, I'm curious to see whether, hopefully we'll kind of dabble into his story a little bit, like finding out what he's been doing all this time. Like, like, I'm also curious to find out what everyone else is going to think about it. What about Amenadiel? What is he going to have to say about this? Him being the oldest and stuff like that. Maybe he knew Cain personally back in the day. I guess him and Lucifer have never, like, known each other. I guess maybe that, like, dates Lucifer. Like, I mean, that whole Cain situation, no, it definitely happened afterwards. I'm sure Lucifer running hell and everything was like way before then, obviously. So, but it's like, it's just kind of interesting to me that you've never crossed paths before. But then again, that also brings up the whole situation. Well, what about the Sinner Man? Why is it that he wanted to die? Was it all for the purpose of orchestrating your plan? Or was he just kind of a pawn in the Sinner Man's game too? Or did maybe, I don't know. I mean, whatever the situation is, you see that it hurt Pierce to kill the Sinner Man, because even when like, Ella was kind of like going, oh my God, you're so awesome. You're so cool. Just doing what you did. He's like, Lopez, shut up. And I'm like, you've never saw him get like that. And even Ella was kind of like, oh, okay. Which is kind of, there's a part of me that was like, oh, poor Ella. That's so sad. It almost looked like she was so sad. I'm like, Ella, please, I'd give you a hug if I could. But it makes you wonder, like, why did he take that so personally? Like, obviously they have a connection that we saw in a photo, but how did they go from there to where they are now? I mean, is that actually like a friend, or is it like a little brother situation? Like, oh, he treated him, or raised him like a little brother, or is the Sinner Man actually one of his children? I mean, he's been around for a long time, so who's to say that he doesn't have multiple children? Like, I'm so curious to find out what that was all about in the grand scheme of things. like I said, I think this might be some like revenge plan, but it's like, why turn Lucifer into an angel again? Like, it must be part of some ritual or some spell or something that he's concocting. Because, like I said, I brought it up. Lucifer's never met him. They've never interacted whatsoever. Because you would have Lucifer if Lucifer knew him. I mean, granted, it's been a long time, so maybe it's just like it's been such a long time that he forgot his face. But I don't know. I feel like Lucifer wouldn't really forget a face like that. Also shows you that because it just appears to be like a normal human being, that nothing really resonates and is special about him. Because it's like, obviously when he got stabbed, nothing came out. Like, it's not like, oh, some angel light or nothing. It's like, no, he's just a normal human who has the ability to just come back from the dead. So I wonder, is there more to him than that? Kind of wait and see. And obviously, kind of a smaller storyline in this episode that I really like too is we had the interactions between Trixie and Charlotte. I thought that was kind of a nice touch. Because there was the awkwardness. It's like, oh, how do you know my dad? And it's like, oh, we work together. Super awkward question. And then Trixie kind of brought up an interesting topic, and that was about Charlotte's whole family situation. It's like, well, obviously the goddess kind of ruined a lot of stuff for her personal life. So basically her husband has has their kids. Her kids don't want to even see her because of that whole their mom possessing her body situation. So, but it was kind of an interesting thing because Trixie's like, because initially Charlotte had lied. It's like, no, I'm too caught up in work, which Trixie kind of was like, my parents are super busy with work and everything, and they're split up, yet they all find time with me, play games and stuff like that, which Charlotte admits, like, well, my kids don't want to see me, but it's like, no, you're the mom in this situation, so, you're the one that decides how things work out. And then proceeds to ask, are you having sex with my dad? Literally, I kind of had a spit take moment. Obviously, I didn't have anything in my mouth, but it just caught me off guard. It's just like, wow, that question came up, and that's super on point and super awkward. And also, but ultimately, it leads to Dan and Charlotte kind of mending fences, and it's like, oh, hey, want to go for dinner? Sure. And then even Dan's like, wow, you're like, telling Trixie, like, wow, you're the best wingman. And it seems like Charlotte's kind of trying to slowly fix her life, like, I mean, I think there's a good thing that came about this. Obviously, she's trying to be a better person, and at the same time, like, she's fixing her own personal life. It's not going to be easy. Obviously, things between her and Dan are kind of kicking up, so there's that. Which that whole situation makes me think about the whole Lucifer and Pierce situation. It's like, it makes you wonder on some level, what's the whole point from the very beginning to kind of pull them further apart? Because it seems like, the further they get apart, the closer, I'm sure, like, we definitely see Pierce and Chloe, and obviously Lucifer's probably going to be wanting to keep an eye on them, but Chloe's not really going to trust him or believe in him anymore, so there's that complication. So I don't know whether Pierce is doing it on purpose or that's just a byproduct of everything, so. I mean, now in retrospect, it's like, maybe when he refers to the Sinnerman, he's referring to himself, but once again, maybe that's just him referring to God as like, oh, God made me commit this, like, particular sin, he pushed me to do this, so it's his fault. I don't know. I'm very interested to see where they go with this whole situation. But sadly, we will be waiting a while because Lucifer will be going on a break. It will be returning on January 1st, literally New Year's Day, which is, I'm super excited. I'm ready to pick this up. I didn't even look at anything. I didn't want to know nothing. I want to be completely ignorant until the time comes for the show to return to find out, like, where the hell this is all going, because it's so good. There was a part of me that was a little worried when he stabbed Pierce at the end. I was like, oh man, there's going to be like this awkward situation where you're worried that you killed him or something. I thought it was a situation where, oh crap, I actually killed someone. But then again, it's like if he had killed a regular human, which is still, he's a human. So does that still not apply? I mean, because it's not permanent death, so maybe it doesn't apply. But I was thinking like, oh man, it's like, I was like, oh, Lucifer's going to freak out because he thought he was so sure. And it turns out, and he's going to try and get rid of the body. And the whole thing was like some messed up thing, but it's like, no, Pierce immediately woke up. Like, Lucifer was like, okay, finally, it took you forever to wake up. So, like I said, I'm so interested to see where the new episodes takes us when the show returns on January 1st. And now moving on to this week's episode of The Gifted. Fantastic episode. A lot of stuff went down in this episode, so let's break everything down bit by bit. This episode did a lot of interesting things. For one, this is our first time really getting to see Andy and Lauren's power fully activated. Like, we never got to see, well, we kind of saw the aftermath of Andrea and Andreas's like whole situation, but like this is our first time seeing what their power really looks like, because you had Campbell, which we kind of get our first look at him. He has like almost like a Frankenstein's monster thing going on. Scars on his face, and like on the other side of his face, it looks like the veins in his face are like popping to the surface. Pretty rough. Basically, he's testing them to see if they have the capabilities that that runs in their family. And then, interestingly enough, I loved it, kind of sliding in that X-Men knowledge, which limited amount I know, obviously being like the walls in that testing room are made from adamantium, the same thing that's in Wolverine that his claws are made of, and basically is covering his entire skeleton. I thought that was pretty neat. That whole like, oh yeah, found in some abandoned facility. I was like, nice, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Even a knowing X-Men person like me could appreciate. It's like, oh, I get that, yay! Because like a lot of this show is like new to me because I'm not that familiar with X-Men. Marvel comics in general, comic books in general, once again, asterisk, not a comic book person, don't really know comic books that well. Only thing I know about the Marvel Universe is basically what's popped up in the MCU, and other than that, X-Men, my knowledge with the X-Men are severely limited, except for like some of the top tier people, and even the top tier people like Wolverine. I'm always learning new and more interesting things about Wolverine, especially because of like the Fox movies and stuff like that, but nevertheless. It was kind of interesting seeing like that power, what it really legitimately looks like. They hold their hands out and they push. And what I thought was such a cool representation, because it literally looks like a gigantic dent, and inside that dent there are multiple palm prints. So it's almost like they literally went up and slammed their palms into it so hard they left their own handprints, which they never did. So it's just interesting that that's what the power looks like. I mean, their power is basically like, both of their powers are to push, but in different direction. Andy kind of pushes outward, whereas Lauren kind of pushes inward. So it's kind of like seeing that kind of come together, and they just push as together, and just seeing how it was represented like that, I thought was kind of so interesting. Because that's basically what it's like to be hit by that attack. It's like being hit by like multiple fully powered palm strikes at the same time. Did not see Sonya's death coming. That really took me by surprise. Like the whole like Campbell killing her for that. I was like, he's about to kill someone. I had a feeling it was going to be Sonya just because of the conversations earlier on, but it's like, oh, that sucks so much. And for Lauren, it breaks her heart later on too, because it's like they gave in. Sonya died for nothing because they were promising not to give Campbell what he wanted, but it's like ultimately they did what he wanted, and so it means like Sonya died for nothing. Clarice is still alive, so there's that. And even if like he would have kept going, he would have gotten people after people and just kept sacrificing them. So it's like it's hard to say whether they did the right thing or not, especially when it seems like Campbell's ultimate goal is like basically he wanted to find something in his Strucker DNA to kind of weaponize. It's not just them specific. I thought like, oh, you want, I figured it had to have something to do with a weapon. But I was like, are you looking to like weaponize the Strucker kids as like weapons you can control or something like that, like get them under the Hound program, which is like, no, it's a means to an end to wiping out mutants apparently. So I guess he's taking what Otto Reeves' dad created, the whole like wiping out the X gene, and applying it with the Strucker's ability to do what they do, push. So I don't know whether he's going to apply all these powers inside of another mutant or a weapon and kind of have that powerful push and have it spread worldwide to wipe out mutants altogether, or is it going to be a situation of like manipulating the Strucker's DNA to make it so that when they use their push power, it automatically tracks and kills? And no, because isn't that how the Sentinels work or something like that? The whole point is like to be able to track the X gene, I thought that's kind of how the Sentinels work. Like not the Sentinels on this show, but like the big, like machine-like Sentinels. I'm curious about that. Isn't that how they like track mutants and stuff like that? They can sense the X gene or something like that. So I'm wondering, is it something like that he's trying to apply, but in a different manner? I don't know. It seemed like it wouldn't be that specific. I mean, it seems like it's connected to that, but it wouldn't be that specific because it has to be tied specifically to what's in their DNA that lets their power come together like that. So it's connected to that. So that's going to make matters even worse because it's like that means they helped him create it. But once again, it's a tough situation, dude. It's actually sad too because we learned more about Sonya too. We learned that the fact is that she used to work at a battered women's shelter, and she'd help people by removing the bad memories. And she was kind of wondering if they could do the same thing. She should do the same thing here, because it's like they're a lot, because she felt it herself that this whole situation was a lot worse than anything they've been in before. So, and all the while this is going down, obviously there's a divide. Obviously the Struckers want to handle things a more legal route, like, oh, let's get some politicians or some well-known people on our side. And then you have Lorna being very against that. It's like, no, we got to strike, we got to hit hard. Now it's like your own kids in there, we know, but it's like, we can't do that. We're going guns blazing, we're going to get everyone killed and hurt. And obviously John and Marcos are kind of in the middle in the whole situation. So, but then you have Esme doing her thing. Part of me is like, okay, maybe she's manipulating everything for her family. It seems like I was right on both counts. It really was true about her family, but at the same time, it was manipulated, because she gets inside of Reeve and Caitlyn's head about the whole, visit Turner, he'll help you, which Turner was super pissed this episode. And in retrospect, I guess they were foreshadowing it too, because Jace wanted out of anybody, he was pissed at mutants in general, just because of just the whole Gracie situation, but more so at Sonya, because it kind of interestingly put it in perspective. I knew his memory of his daughter had died was removed from his head. I didn't realize how much the damage really was, because for him, it's like the last few days he had with his little girl up to her dying, all of that was gone. So it robbed him of even more. And obviously, once again, the whole aspect of he has to constantly remind himself his little girl's gone, has to be told over and over again. And it's like he's losing her over and over again, because it's like he's got to, oh man, I can't wait till I go home. No, Gracie's gone, so. There's that. But it's like he wanted Sonya to pay specifically, so I guess he got what he wanted in the end. Because it's just sad, because it's like Reeve and Caitlyn actually did get to him, which even Esme was like, wait, they did? Because she even tried to backstab and even get Marcos and Lorna. It's like, oh my god, I don't know, they thought they could do this, but I don't know what's wrong with them. Even though you're the one that gave them the idea, and she's just smiling as her plan plays out. I'll kind of get to that in a second. But Caitlyn and Reeve were successful. I mean, they kind of tried to appeal to him as a father. It's like, what's going to happen to our children? They're going to be experimented on. It's like, as a father, you lost your child. We don't want to lose our child. And not even just them, trying to speak to all the mutants. But once again, Jace is so filled with rage. He's like, well, no, if you wanted to, you should go through the legal system. It's like, because this whole thing was set up by Congress and everything. So, but it's not like they could really. It's like, it's like, oh, the fact that the moment your kids try to go into that trash building. So, but, you had Caitlyn kind of explaining it, what exactly this whole Hound program would do. They've seen what it does, getting them hooked on this drug and turning them into basically mindless soldiers that can be controlled. And that touched, Turner's wife. And he was like, don't worry, baby, and she's like, is it true? And it's like, what are you doing in our daughter's name? Once again, it kind of put things in perspective, because now he realizes yes, he's a lawman. The fact of the matter is he lived to uphold the law, but he's so caught up in his anger, because he was already angry before and he wanted to take them underground down, but he would have at least gone about it the legal way. But ever since Sonya kind of messed with his head, he's been so filled with rage, and it's just I guess in his mind, he didn't realize just how impartial he had become to this whole situation, that revenge was in his heart. So luckily he did have a change of heart, and he did come to pick the rest of them up. Sadly, it wasn't before, Sonya sadly died. Which even Campbell tried to spin, no, she died in an experiment. It's like, oh, you left out the fact is that you murdered her. You do realize that, right? Just because he exists outside of the system, he's allowed to kind of do the things he wants to do. Because we kind of saw a senator at the beginning of the episode. His name is Montez. He's very pro human rights, non-mutants. It's like, oh, their powers and stuff like this. And the fact of the matter, kind of like the human race's future. So I'm sure he has someone like that backing him. It has to be someone in a high position that's backing his plays. It just doesn't seem right that people's rights will be violated the way they are, no matter whether they're mutants or not. So it does turn into that situation on there has to be someone at the top helping him. And the fact is, we got introduced to that senator this episode 2 months ago. But nevertheless, the biggest trip was how the episode played out ultimately with Esme, which we now know her real name. Well, no, we don't know that her name is Stacy. No, I think she might be Stacy. for one, we see more of what her power can be. It's the fact is that obviously we know that she can manipulate people because she can get inside of their head. I shouldn't be too surprised. Like basically we saw her controlling people in this episode, but I forgot like she got inside of Lorna's head and made Lorna have a specific nightmare just to trigger like Lorna more and push her further to be like, no, we have to take action. We have to take action. Now she knew exactly what buttons to push. And it seems, and she ultimately has like everyone on the Sentinel service team basically killed themselves. The only one that survives that whole incident is Jace. And it seems like two other people get off the bus, and it seems like it's her other sisters. So I'm wondering, is it a situation of like with her powers, like by herself, she can do some, but she needs her other sisters. Like, I don't know whether they're copies or whether that's part of her power, but I'm thinking it's more like, no, it's a triplet situation of like when they're all together, that's when their power is more powerful. So they can manipulate you and control your mind. So it's not just about reading thoughts. They can actually control your mind as well, which is like scary, which immediately when my brain goes, oh, does that mean you're going to do the same thing to the mutants too? And it's like, oh, let's get out of here. And then immediately it clicked in my head because I was like, no, she's part of the Hound program. She's definitely got to be part of this whole situation. And it's like, she's got to be working with Campbell. That's what crossed my mind. But after seeing that, another side of things clicked in my head. They're working with like a Brotherhood like group. Either like the Brotherhood is still alive doing their thing, or a group that's similar to the Mutant Underground that's more aligned with the Brotherhood is kind of taking control of everything, because the X-Men specifically left John in charge of like the Mutant Underground. So who's to say the Brotherhood didn't do the same thing, no matter what their circumstances are? So then it turns into a situation that I brought up earlier where it's like, I feel like Andy might lean more towards the Brotherhood of not being ashamed, and if we have to fight back, because especially this season's already set up. The fact is, if he needs to, like he wants to prove himself, he's not going to hide anymore. He's going to fight back. Whereas Lauren tends to be the more calm one about it, and like I said, it basically kind of reflects their abilities too, with his power to push and basically rip, and her power is more like, it's almost like it's pushing inwards. It's more, her power is more for like deflecting and protecting, whereas his is more destructive, so that's to me like one of those situations. But then again, it's like, hey, you saw a flip side to it, like, because even Andy was like, maybe I made the wrong decision making us stop using our powers. And it was like, and Lauren's like, no, if you didn't do that, we would have hurt a lot of innocent people last episode. So obviously there's give and take with that situation, kind of like the yin and the yang. Even with one side, there's a little bit of the other. So with a little bit of yin, there's a little bit of yang. There's even with a little bit of light, there's a little bit of darkness, and with darkness, there's always a little bit of light inside. That type of thing. So that's what they kind of represent, the symmetry and the balance of things. So that's immediately where my head goes with this whole situation, though. Like, it wasn't till the end that like Reeve and Caitlin figure it out, because they come back and they're like, oh yeah, how could you do this, betray us? Like, what are you talking about? No, Esme's the one that gave us that idea. It's like, that's not what she said. And it's like, wait, what? So now, she's kind of figured out, and now it's like she's leading the other mutant. Either this or she's going back because I caught a glimpse of something. It looked like it was her back at the Mutant Underground. So for her, it's like, nah, I'm here to raise you up. It's like, but the fact of the matter is things were going good. Yes, they could have handled things a lot differently. They wouldn't have had to kill anybody, because even Marcos himself was like, this is very similar to the cartel, which Lorna was like, no, it's not. It's like, yes, it's a war, and the fact of the matter is it will be bloodshed. We have to find another way around this. It's like, I know you want to protect our baby's future, you want to protect our future, but it's like, things aren't going to get better if we do this. Once again, Jace was sympathetic. Now there might be no turning back. He might go full force this time after everything, losing the dude that was like his partner, as well as all those, literally every other Sentinel agent that was with him, because for him, he'll hold the most responsibility, because it's like, I went through with this. So everything that happened, all those deaths are on me. So once again, we'll just have to wait and see whether this is all part of Campbell's plan or whether this is someone else entirely. Because I don't think Esme is in on this on her own. Like, I feel like it took a lot to kind of put her in that situation. So she might have been a plant from the very beginning. Well, no, because they didn't find any marks on her, and the whole, like, people who were part of the Hound program had the marks and everything. Not unless she's supposed to be deep cover, or she covered up her mark or whatever. I don't know. I definitely get the feeling like this is some, like, mutiny type of thing of, like, yo, we need to fight back, hit back hard. But it's like, You say that, but everything you've done has ultimately been about saving your family, which kind of going back to what I was bringing up earlier, I almost let it slip. The whole thing 2 months ago where she was getting those warnings, I was like, who's warning her? Who can get inside of her head like that? And it's like, now it makes sense. She had two sisters who have abilities like her. Either she didn't know about her siblings and, maybe they were separated at birth, so they all went to 3 different families, or maybe she was just the only one that was with a different family, grew up in a different situation. Whatever the case may be, that was her siblings warning her that, oh, they found you out. Come on. So her name was Stacy, but then maybe, maybe that's not Esme. I'd assume it is, but we just kind of would have to wait and see. So this whole situation is going to escalate things even more. So like I said, not even with just Jace or people in general. People are very anti-mutant. It's something that, Reeve and Caitlin kind of talk about, because the fact of the matter is, it's like we have all these, people, no matter what the circumstances are, like if they found out that we were trying to save our children, would they even really lift a finger? Because to them, it's like, no. They'd actually kind of agree with it. And it's like, honestly, they lived that life too, that they were part of the problem, that they didn't think too much of it. Like, oh, this is the way the world is as far as safety and everything. They didn't think much of it. The situation changed the moment their children became mutants and everything. So it's just going to escalate things even worse, which the Brotherhood doesn't really care about those type of situations, which is why I'm thinking even more, because they're typically like, if we have to be blunt and we have to use a little force, then so be it, to get results, to get what we need, what we want. So that's why I'm thinking this whole situation is going to lie. I don't know. We will have to wait. Like I said, a fantastic episode, but sadly we will have to wait until January 1st when The Gifted returns. But I'm super excited to see how this all plays out. Especially if that turns into a situation of like, oh, there is another group of mutants out there leading this whole charge and everything. Especially because they're going to definitely go try and recruit a lot of people, but specifically Andy and Lauren, depending on whether or not they know about their abilities or not. Oh, and let's not forget Sonya's dead too, so that's definitely going to piss John off. Because John was kind of frustrated with the whole situation, because it's like, oh, what do we do? When do we act? And it's like now also finding out that basically, because ultimately everything played out the way it did was because Esme was in such a rush to save her sisters and everything. So ultimately everything kind of fell apart, kind of because of her, because she's the one that kind of pushed and rushed for this plan. It was for selfish reasons and everything like that. So there's that, all the whole manipulation and everything she kind of pulled this episode as well as last episode. So there's that too. Because basically all that ultimately led to Sonya's death. So, that's going to weigh heavy on John's conscience too. So, but really that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest and enjoy it. Good day and good